Hello everyone, welcome to Movie Talk with Nate and Waffle! Yay! Aw. Now normally I was going to do all these with my dog Daisy, however she's very skittish and she doesn't really like to be picked up very much, so I could tell she was pretty miserable the last time, so I don't want her to have to endure that every week. Plus my wife and I, we do foster care, so where we take care of animals until someone adopts them. So this way I can have a new animal every week. And today it's Waffle. Say hi. Aww. Alright, so last week I did a video of the top movie, like my top all-time favorite movies. So naturally today I'm going to do a list of my least favorite movies, or movies that I hate, however you want to phrase it. This list is going to be much smaller though, simply because... Oh, you're so cute. Simply because... typically I don't really remember films very well if I've only seen them once, and of course if you don't like a film, why are you going to watch it more than once? Now of course there is two exceptions. One is sometimes even if I don't like a film, I do end up watching it more than once for whatever reason, and two, there are certain films where once is enough for me to remember it. So but either way, this list was a lot harder, again just because I don't remember too many films I don't like. But we're going to give it a shot. We got 10 movies here, and here we go.
Your movie sucks so bad.
Alright, so number 10 is The Dark Knight Rises. Now, anytime you talk about a movie that's like a sequel or a prequel or trequel or whatever you want to call it, I think it's always good to talk about the other films a little bit, and I'll say that I really liked Batman Begins and The Dark Knight as movies. I didn't think they were a good representation of Batman, and there's lots of reasons for that. I'll just talk about the main one. It's because the whole idea behind Batman's character is the fact that he's supposed to be more than just a man. And they say that in the Nolan movies a lot. However, being they spent so much time on making it more realistic and grounded in reality, this version of Batman is much more flawed, he's much more vulnerable, he makes a lot more mistakes, he has to ask for help all the time, he's just all around much more like a normal person, which typically is kind of good for a character. It's good to like have them have flaws and vulnerabilities, it makes them more relatable, it makes them more well-rounded. But again, in the case of Batman, the whole purpose of his character is the fact that he's not like a normal person. You know, he's better than a normal person in literally every way. He's stronger, he's faster, he's smarter, he has more resilience, he's more creative, he has more willpower. You know, he's just better than a normal person in every way, and I just don't feel these films represented that well at all. There was just too much flawed and too much vulnerability. So yeah, I don't think it was a good interpretation of Batman, but the stories and everything were pretty good in the first two. Now, when it comes to The Dark Knight Rises, the main reason why I don't like it very much is because it does what bad sequels do, and that is it just copies what it already did in the first one. You know, it's the same bad guys again, you know, it's the League of Shadows, which just because it's the same bad guys doesn't mean it's the same thing. You know, in the comics they reuse bad guys all the time, but they have different plots, different ideas, and things like that. But this one they don't. It's the same plot and being executed almost the exact same way. Because in Batman Begins, you know, the League of Shadows, they steal the microwave emitter from Wayne Enterprises. They put it on a train, have the train going around the city, and the city's spreading all the fear toxin, and the city starts to tear itself apart through fear. In The Dark Knight Rises, they steal a bomb from Wayne Enterprises, they put it on a truck, have the truck going around the city, and everyone starts freaking out, and the city starts to tear itself apart through fear. You know, the main bad guy, Bane, I love Tom Hardy's performance, and I love his presence. I love the fact that every time he came on screen, like, it just felt like a big deal. Like, he just has that really cool, imposing presence. But the writing of the character, he was basically just Ra's al Ghul again. You know, he has the same ideology, he wants to destroy Gotham for the same reasons, and he even taunts Batman the same way. Like, Ra's al Ghul would say things like, "Oh, you never learn to mind your surroundings," or "Familiar, don't you have anything new?" And Bane tells him things like, "Theatricality and deception, powerful agents for the uninitiated." Or, you know, he would say things like, "You fight like a young man, nothing held back, admirable but mistaken." I know I do a terrible Bane, but you get my point. So like I said, it just really felt like the same bad guy again. And even the twist at the end is the same. At the end, we find out that Miranda Tate is actually Talia al Ghul. Just like at the end of Batman Begins, we found out that Ducard was actually Ra's al Ghul. So it just felt like it was just doing all the same things over again. And even the opening scenes of The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises are tremendously similar. I mean, of course, one's a bank robbery, one's kind of a plane heist, I guess you would say. But it hits all the same beats. You know, they both start out with men who have masks over them, so you can't tell who they are, and they start talking about the main bad guy. You know, in The Dark Knight, they talk about the Joker. In The Dark Knight Rises, they start talking about Bane, and then, the plot, kind of goes along a little bit. All this crazy stuff happens. One of the people gets their mask taken off to reveal, hey, it's the main bad guy. Again, in The Dark Knight, it was the Joker. In this one, it was Bane, and they reveal that, the bad guy was there the whole time, and that this was all part of their plan, and then it ends with them kind of like making the getaway. It hits all the same beats. So it really just sort of felt like a redo of the opening scene. And another problem I think this film really suffered from was that I think Nolan just tried to cram in too much stuff. And it's not that I didn't get it. Like, I understood everything that was going on. It's just, in my opinion, like, a good movie, like, really, it gets you invested by having things build on one another. Like, you get invested in everything that's going on because it's like, okay, this happens, and then as a result of that, this happens, and then as a result of that, this happens, and things kind of build off of one another. So even if you have a lot of stuff, you still have time to get invested in it because each thing is kind of building on one another. Whereas this one, a lot of the things felt really disconnected. It kind of felt like, okay, this is happening over here, and this is happening over here, and this is happening over here, and then over here, and over here. And everything just felt a lot more scattered. It didn't really feel like tightly connected. It didn't feel like things were really building off of one another, because a lot of the plot lines really don't end up going anywhere. And a lot of the plot lines really just kind of come out of nowhere. So yeah, I just wasn't able to really get invested in much. And then last but certainly not least, I think he really dropped the ball with the one part of the film that was actually really, really interesting, which was the whole pit idea. I like it when like heroes kind of get broken and kind of have to like rebuild themselves, or like the return type deal. I usually find that idea quite compelling, and I liked it. It was The Dark Knight Rises, and he's literally rising out of the pit. I liked that idea, but they brushed through it in like 20 minutes. I mean, this is almost a 3-hour movie, and the main point of your film, The Dark Knight Rises, you brush through in like 20 minutes. So to me, it just didn't feel like a big deal. Like, technically it was. I mean, he gets his back broken and he has to risk his life to, jump out of the pit. It technically is a big deal, but it didn't feel like a big deal. It really just felt more like a minor inconvenience. So yeah, I felt that, it repeats a lot of the same things. You don't really get invested, and the main point of the story is kind of brushed over. Oh, and Anna Hathaway sucked as Catwoman. Like, I don't know why everyone praises her. I thought she was awful. I mean, the writing was okay. Like, the writing was pretty good for Catwoman. However, and if you watch my videos, you're going to hear me say this a lot. Like, I realize that anytime an actor is playing a character, or actress is playing a character, they are acting, duh. But if they're doing a good job, we, the audience, shouldn't be thinking that. They're supposed to convince us that they're not acting, that this is just the way they naturally are. And in my opinion, Anne Hathaway does not do that at all. The entire movie, any scene she's in, I am very, very aware that I am watching an actress play a character. Like, she never makes me forget that. I never buy into the illusion. I'm always just very aware that she is an actress playing a character. So yeah, I don't think she did a good job.
This year you sucked real bad.
Alright, so next on my list is They Live. This is a film that probably not a lot of people have really heard about, and it's basically this like idea where there's like I can't remember if they're aliens or zombies. I'm pretty sure they're aliens, and they're kind of like using advertisement as a way to like warp people's minds, and like advertisement like really means something else. It's like, oh, there's like a hidden message in it. And then this one guy gets these glasses, it's Roddy Piper. He gets these glasses and he could see like what the advertisements like really mean when he puts on the glasses. And then of course he has to go stop the alien invasion. And I don't really like the concept. Like anytime movies have that concept of, oh, there's something going on, right in front of our face, but we just don't see it. For some reason, that concept is just completely unappealing to me. The only reason why I watch this is because my friends were just absolutely begging me to. So again, I don't like the concept, and not that there's necessarily anything fundamentally wrong with that concept. It's just a concept that doesn't interest me. So that obviously it had that going against it. And then I know once he gets the glasses and they kind of start revealing like what the advertisements really mean, they really drag it out. It's like he puts on the glasses and then he lifts them up and then he puts them on and then he lifts them up. So you're seeing like, there's the fake advertisement, there's what it really means. Fake advertisement, there's what it really means. And he does this so much. Like I understand why they do it the first time, so the audience like gets what's going on. But after that, it's like, okay, it's like, okay, we fucking get it, like move on. So I felt the movie was kind of treating me like I was dumb, and obviously I don't like that. And just overall, I remember the movie being very boring. There just really wasn't a whole lot that I was interested in, and so it just wasn't for me.
Your movie sucks so bad.
Alright, so next we have Mamma Mia. Now, this is like one of my wife's favorite movies, which is why I watched it. And she's probably going to be pretty upset that it's on this list, but who knows, maybe she won't watch this video, I don't know. The reason why I don't like it is because, at least in my opinion, a good musical should think of the story first, and then they should come up with songs that kind of highlight that story and kind of, add depth and emotion. And, again, like I said, just the songs should highlight the story and what's going on. This one I felt was the opposite. It really feels like they thought of the songs first, and they're like, okay, how can we come up with excuses for people to sing all of these songs? There's very little character development because, again, they're not really focused on developing the characters. They're more focused on getting the characters to the next song. And I know story-wise, it really just kind of goes all over the place. A lot of situations feel extremely forced, again, because they're just trying to get to the next song. And this probably isn't the only musical that does that, but I don't really watch a whole lot of musicals, and this is definitely the worst culprit that I've seen, at least, where it's like, wow, everything just feels really forced. There's hardly any character development. This is just a big excuse to sing all of these songs. So I didn't really like it.
Your movie sucks so bad.
All right, so next on my list is Pulp Fiction. And I'm sure a lot of people are going like, what are you talking about? Like, it was such a revolutionary film. Like, how could you not like it? Well, first of all, I don't really know what's revolutionary about it. Like, I always hear people say that this was like a revolutionary film and that it was a game changer and all that stuff. And I've tried to research it. I've like literally went on Google and all different types of web searches and said, typed in like, why was Pulp Fiction revolutionary? And everything that pops up just talks about how it is revolutionary. I've yet to see anything that explains why. And I've tried to figure it out on my own, and I think, well, it's not the first film to like have a lot of cussing in it. It's not the first film to really be like hyper violent and everything like that. It's not the first film to be really disconjointed, where there's not really much of a story. It's just all these like separate things. So like, what was it about it? And before anyone says, oh, well, it's the first time a film like this was like a mainstream film. But this wasn't a mainstream film originally. Like, this was a low-budget, independent film that just ended up getting a huge following, but it wasn't made as like a big Hollywood film. So I just really don't understand what was so revolutionary about it. And then when it comes to the dialogue, because that's the main thing people talk about. Again, most people, I haven't heard anyone say that this was a good story. It's supposedly really good dialogue and all that. And I don't think most of it was really that good. I mean, there's a couple good lines here and there, and there's only a couple lines that people like really quote a lot. Everyone acts like the entire movie's gold. It's like, no, there's like 5 or 6 good lines, like really legitimately good ones. And even then, I think most of the time they're much funnier when I see them on a meme than when I actually watch them in the movie. It's one of those things where I think the memes and the response to the film is actually far more entertaining than the actual film itself. So yeah, I don't really see the appeal to the actual film. Again, I like the references, I like the memes and all that stuff, but the actual film itself, I just didn't find very interesting.
They were dumb,
So next we have Logan. And again, people are probably going to be really pissed at me for this, but for one, I don't think Wolverine is that interesting of a character. And I think he works much better in a group. You know, he's the outsider of the group, but you kind of need the group to really demonstrate that. And just overall, I think he works so much better in the X-Men films when he has those other characters to play off of. Whereas, like, when he's by himself in his own films, I don't think he's anywhere near as interesting. Also, Hugh Jackman only played Wolverine the first movie. Ever since then, he's not been Wolverine anymore, and I'll explain what I mean, because a big part of Wolverine's character is the fact that he's very beast-like. And in the first film, he really portrayed that. Like, whenever he's going to fight, you know, he'd always kind of have his head down. He would look to his brow. You know, he'd kind of do movements like this. He would show his teeth. You know, like, you know, he was very like, you know, kind of like a beast or you know, some sort of animal. You know, but after the first film, he stops doing all that. He doesn't look through his brow anymore. He doesn't show his teeth. He doesn't do those movements. He's just an angry guy with claws. And I know that may sound like the same thing, but it's not. So that, I think, is kind of a bummer that he's not really playing Wolverine anymore. But overall, the biggest disappointment with this film was the fact that it didn't offer anything new. I mean, sure, it was rated R, so there was blood. But, I mean, we've seen Wolverine go berserker and, like, take out a bunch of guys before. You know, the fact that now there's blood, I don't really think it makes it a better film. You know, we see Wolverine fight another, you know, an evil version of Wolverine, which we've already seen twice. You know, it happened in X-Men 1 where Mystique transformed herself into Wolverine, and it happened in X-Men 2 where he fights, like, the female version of Wolverine. So nothing new there. You know, we get the little girl, and again, she goes like berserker and takes out all these guys. But again, how many times have we seen Wolverine do that? And then you have the thing like where he's aging and he's not healing as well, which is what they did in the last Wolverine film. I mean, it wasn't because of his age, but he had that thing inside him that was kind of hindering his healing factors, so he wasn't healing as quickly. So once again, I just felt that this film didn't offer anything new. Everyone's talking about like, oh wow, we've never seen anything like this before. Yes, we have. I mean, we've been seeing all this stuff in these past, you know, 8 or 9, however many times Hugh Jackman has played Wolverine. Like pretty much all this stuff we've seen before. So I was just absolutely bored with this film. You know, I was like, there's nothing new here.
Your movie sucks so bad.
Alright, so next we have Die Hard 5. Now, unlike most people, I don't really have a problem with Die Hard 2 or Die Hard 4. The first 4, I actually really liked all of them. When it came to Die Hard 5, though, I was just really bored. I think this is when Bruce Willis really started to phone it in. You know, a lot of people have been talking about that, how he's been kind of doing that for a good couple of years now. This is the first time, at least that I've noticed it, that he was starting to phone it in. You know, his character was very, very different than John McClane. It really felt like Bruce Willis playing John McClane instead of him just being John McClane, if that makes any sense. The whole son angle I thought was very boring. And then overall, they drag it out so much because in the first 4 films, like the bad guys always have this plot and it seems like it's something, you know, about something else. But in the end, it ends up being about money. And, you know, which was kind of like a cool twist. You know, it's always about the money. And this one, I think people were really expecting it, so they really, really tried hard to trick people. And they kept acting like they were going to reveal something, and they're like, oh, no, it's not about money. And then it would look like they were going to reveal it's about money. It's like, oh, no, they kept doing all of these fake outs. And it actually just got annoying to me because I knew it was going to be about the money. So I was like, okay, just say it already. Like, I know it's coming. I know it's going to happen. Just say it. You know, stop trying to trick me and just say it. So yeah, overall, I just thought it was really boring and really unnecessary and really below the level of all the other Die Hard films.
This year you sucked real bad.
Alright, so next we have Pirates of the Caribbean 2. When it comes to the Pirate series, I really loved the first one. I liked the third one. I didn't, like, it did get a little weird, and I could understand why other people wouldn't like it, but overall, I still found it to be an entertaining film. I haven't seen the 4th or 5th one, and then the second one just absolutely bored me to tears. There's all these political things going on that I thought was really boring. They try to make Jack Sparrow like the absolute star of the movie, which does make sense, but a lot of it just felt really unnecessary. Like in the beginning, or at least it's towards the beginning when they have to go to the island to try and find Jack, and there's that whole deal like where he's being worshipped by this tribe and everything. That scene went on for like ever, it felt like, and there's a lot of other scenes. I just remember that thinking constantly in the theater, like, oh my god, this movie is just dragging so bad. It was one of the few times where I really just wanted to get up out of the theater and just leave. I was like, I don't give a shit if I already paid for this. I just want out. The only reason why I didn't is because my friends took me to the film and I was there with them. So I didn't want to walk out on my friends. But if I was there alone, I definitely would have left because this movie just absolutely bored me.
Your movie sucks so bad.
All right, so next we have Shark Tale. Now, Shark Tale, in my opinion, is a perfect example of the worst type of movie that Hollywood makes, because there's so many times where a movie will become successful and then some Hollywood producer or whoever, watches this film and says, hey, this is what people want, and then they try to replicate it, except for they totally miss the point of what made the first one great. And in this case, Finding Nemo was a really big hit, and so obviously they concluded that people want to see animated films about fish. However, that's not really what made Finding Nemo great. First of all, one of the things that made Finding Nemo really great was the animation is so good. Like, it is such a gorgeous film. Like, all the colors, the smooth animation, like the way they flow through the water and everything. It is just absolutely beautiful. In Shark Tale, the animation is just very standard. It's not terrible. But it is just very generic, very standard. And then the story is just very cliche. It's about a guy who wants to have the better life than what he does. He wants fame and all that stuff, and then he gets an opportunity to do it. He has his moment in fame, but then he screws it all up, and then he realizes that family and friends are what's really important, and that he really had what he wanted all along. And it's such a stupid story, and it's such a cliche. And I know that technically Finding Nemo is sort of a cliche too. It's about someone who loses someone they love, and then they have to go on this incredible journey to find them. That's kind of a cliche as well, but it really felt new and felt fresh because of all the interesting characters he comes across while trying to find his son. And in Shark Tale, all of the characters are painfully by the numbers. You got Will Smith, who's playing that, fun-loving guy who screws up and has to redeem himself, which is the character he always plays in literally every movie he's in. You got this shark who's kind of like a mafia type person who's played by Robert De Niro. I mean, good God, do they stretch their imagination for that one? It is just so generic, so by the numbers. I mean, they even have the car wash song in it. Like, I don't know why Hollywood has come up with this idea that we, the audience, enjoy watching things being washed. Like, why do they think we like that? I mean, if they're remembering some like infamous car wash scene, it's probably because there's a bunch of chicks in skimpy outfits getting wet and soapy. That's what people remember about it. But the idea of something being washed is not appealing to most people, especially if it's a CG animated whale being washed by fish. I mean, again, there's probably someone out there with that fetish, but I mean, that's not something the majority of people are really going to be into. So yeah, I just felt this was a perfect example of Hollywood's attitude when they make really bad movies. They just completely miss the point of what made a film great, and therefore they completely fail in replicating that success. It was extremely generic, extremely by the numbers, just okay CG. There was just nothing that was like actually really good or memorable about the film. It was all just kind of very generic crap.
They were dumb, dumb, dumb. This year you sucked real bad.
All right. So next we have Man of Steel. Now, the DC movies as of recently have been very, very divisive. A lot of people hate them, a lot of people love them, and a lot of people who are kind of like in the middle, just kind of like, eh. I actually really, really hated Man of Steel a lot more than most people. And it's not just because it's so dark. I mean, I don't think it should have been this dark. I understand why it wasn't like the Christopher Reeves Superman. But, just because you want to do a more realistic tone and you wanted to say, okay, well, Superman doesn't have it all figured out yet. Yeah, that's fine. But just because you don't have it all figured out doesn't mean you can't be happy and optimistic. Because let's face it, who does have it all figured out? So I understand why I understand why he wasn't going to be as happy or as optimistic as the Christopher Reeves Superman, but I didn't understand the need to make him this dark and this serious. But even then, the biggest problem I have with it is two things. One is with the story, they talk more than they show. There's so many things that are interesting ideas, but they just talk about it. Like, just one example is like in the beginning, they're on Krypton and they're talking about how Krypton does these artificial births. Oh God, why can't I say that word? You know what I'm talking about. Basically, everyone is kind of created to be a certain way. And as a result, they're no longer growing, they're no longer expanding, they're no longer coming up with new ideas. And as a result, the planet has been doomed. I think this is such a great idea, and especially with the way things are now, and I think it's very suiting to Superman's character because he is about freedom and everything like that. It was a really interesting idea, but when the movie starts, all of that has already happened. We don't actually get to see any of that play out. Instead, we get a pointless action sequence, and I say it's a pointless action sequence because common knowledge, and even the film itself tells us that the planet's just going to blow up anyways. So, I went to a special premiere for this, and it was a packed theater, and when Zod stabs Jor-El, like, nobody gasped, nobody was shocked, like, nobody even really cared, because everyone knew he was just going to die anyways. So, like, what is the point of this action sequence if we know the planet's just going to blow up right after anyways? I would have much rather have seen them spend this 20 minutes kind of telling more about the history of Krypton and actually showing Jor-El have to hide from the council and kind of showing how this attitude, like, why did they think artificial births or creation was the way to go? Like, there's so many other things they could have done that they could have shown us that would have been tremendously more interesting than this action sequence that was absolutely pointless. And there's several scenes like that throughout the movie where they talk about interesting ideas, but we, the audience, don't actually get to see them play out. And that's the whole point of a movie. It's a visual medium. We don't want to be told the story. We want to see the story play out. And Man of Steel does a terrible job at this. And another big problem is the fact that it's very difficult to get invested in the characters and the character relationships. Because, like, think about this. Like, imagine if you're out and about one day and you see a couple, like a married couple, and they start arguing, and then they decide they're going to get a divorce, right? They're like, okay, I'm done with this. We're getting a divorce. But you've never seen this couple before in your life. You know nothing about them. Now, sure, you can still feel a certain amount of empathy. You can say, oh, they're getting a divorce. That's sad. But it's not going to really evoke much of an emotional response from you. You're not going to really care that much. But imagine scenario number 2. Let's just say there's a spot you visit frequently, whether it's like a coffee shop, a park, whatever, and from time to time you see this married couple there. And they're really cute. They compliment each other, they laugh, maybe they have really different personalities, but you see why it works. You're like, okay, I get it. I get why they're together. Maybe you overhear one or two of their jokes, so you laugh a little, and you kind of say to yourself, wow, what a cute couple. And then one day you see them and they're getting a divorce. Now you're going to have more of an emotional response. You're going to say, oh no, they were such a cute couple and now they're getting a divorce. That's sad. Just having that little bit of information first, before the conflict happens, really makes a huge difference. But Man of Steel completely fails to realize this. Every scene that Superman has, either with his parents or Lois Lane, tries to be this big emotional issue and a big philosophical conversation about how he's an alien and what he should or should not be doing with his powers. They never let us get invested in the relationship before there's conflict. And I understand Superman's not going to have a totally normal life, but there has to at least been some days, like where maybe he just went fishing with his father and nothing bad happened. They just went fishing and had a good time. Or maybe he had a family board game night or something that would allow us to get invested in this family first before the family goes through conflict. But again, it doesn't do that. It just tries to go big emotion, big emotion, big emotion. And for most people, our emotions just can't be manipulated that way. And then last but certainly not least, it's the only Superman movie that I could ever think of where Superman doesn't feel heroic. And again, it's not just because he's dark, and it's not just because he destroys half of Metropolis while fighting Zod. I understand that a lot of other superhero movies, there is big destruction. However, you could always make the argument that it would have been way worse if the hero wasn't there. But in the case of Man of Steel, Zod is here looking for Superman, specifically. He's not looking to conquer this or take over this. He is here looking for Superman specifically. Now, I'm not saying that makes it Superman's fault. He didn't ask for this. I'm just saying you can't make that argument. You cannot make the argument that it would have been worse if Superman wasn't there. Because if Superman wasn't there, then Zod would have never come there. And another big difference is typically, what makes superheroes feel heroic is like, we'll be over here, right, having our problem. And then the superhero decides to come over and help us with our problem. They don't have to do it, but they choose to do it. But once again, in this case, Zod is here looking for Superman specifically. This is Superman's problem that we have gotten caught in the middle of. And again, that doesn't make it his fault. It just doesn't feel heroic. Because he's not choosing to confront this. He has no choice. He has no choice in the matter. And before anyone says, oh, well, he chooses to reveal himself, he chooses to put himself in danger and reveal to the world that he's an alien. No, Zod did that. Zod came in his alien ship, broadcast a message across the whole world that said, I'm an alien, there's another alien here, hand him over, or I'm going to destroy everything. So at that point, cat's out of the bag. People know aliens exist. And again, he has to confront this one way or another. If he chose to just hide, then Zod would destroy the world, eventually find him, and then he could confront Zod then. But confrontation is unavoidable. This is not something he is choosing to confront. He has no choice but to confront this. So as a result of that, he just didn't feel heroic. This is the only Superman movie where Superman does not feel heroic. Ugh. Okay.
We all want our money back.
All right, and last, probably the worst movie that I've ever seen, or at least the worst movie that I remember seeing, is Halle Berry's Catwoman. I don't really think I need to defend this too much. I have yet to hear anyone say that they like this movie. Halle Berry is just absolutely horrible. The outfit is atrocious. Sharon Stone is not any better than Halle Berry. The story is freaking dumb as crap. The CG is awful. I mean, there's really just nothing about this film that I liked or found even slightly entertaining. It is just all around a very, very terrible film. And that's it. I hate to end on such a low note, but then again, it is a list of my least favorite movies, so you kind of have to. Alright, well, I'll see you around. Say goodbye, Waffle. Bye-bye.